Some of the questions we get asked through emails and phone calls is, how do you straighten wooden arrows? Well, I'm going to show you some different examples here of some of the ways that I have seen through the years. They're not necessarily the ways I use, and I recommend you try some of them and see if they work for you. One of the simplest ways that I have found is that I look down the arrow shaft. I'm going to intentionally put a bend in this shaft. And you'll see right here it has a bend, a wow going like this. And what you do is you turn that wow into the palm of your hand, just like this, and slightly bend it backwards. And you can do that all the way down. Usually that works better with conifers than it does hardwoods. Hardwoods, a lot of times you have to heat them to straighten them. And what I use for that is a torch, just like this, a little propane torch. You find the bend area, you warm it up, make sure you don't scorch the shaft, unless you want to do that intentionally. It does look nice. You warm that area up and you slightly bend it. When the wood is warm, it bends easier than when it's cold, especially with hardwoods. Some of the other tricks that I've seen through the years, one is an arrow wrench. It has a hole in it. It can be made out of bone. It could be made out of wood. And all you do is look down the shaft and give it a bend the opposite direction of the bend in the shaft. There's been other tools like these wood blocks here. What they do is they create friction, which gives the heat just like the propane torch, and also helps harden the outside by compressing the wood fibers. Another example of a tool that, pretty neat idea, it's called the hook. And what you do is you find the bend in the shaft, you turn the bend upward, and you slightly push down on this hook and rub back and forth. Again, it's causing heat by friction and also pressure down. So this hook, it's a neat little tool, but one of the guys that I talked to years ago showed me a way to make the very same thing, using a broken piece of an arrow shaft and one of those cup hangers that you hang up underneath your cupboard. It works basically the same principle as a real nice fancy brass hook. Another way that some people find works best for them is they have a V in their workbench. I don't want a V in my workbench, so I just made this little soft pine board, and it does the same thing. As I have the little hump in the shaft from the bend, I put the hump or bend down, facing down into this V, and I rub back and forth, doing the same thing that I was doing with the hook, only in an opposite direction. Rather than pulling it down, I'm actually pushing the center up and pushing down on the sides. And that compresses and also helps straighten it out. But it still takes a little, just looking down the shaft and moving it in the opposite direction of the bend. Another way is a steel rod or a glass bottle or something like that. You do the same thing. You find the high side in the bend and you rub back and forth. It burnishes, which means it's compressing the outer edge of the shaft. It's heating it up, and it pushes it down at the same time. The best way to make straight arrows is to make sure you straighten the shaft before you make it into arrows. However, sometimes the arrows get bent in shooting. I always, when I'm out shooting, stump shooting, or at a tournament or anything, I have this habit of spinning my arrow just to see how it feels in my hand. If it wobbles, I just look down and take the curve part into my palm of my hand, put my fingers around and slightly put a little pressure the opposite direction. This takes a little getting used to, and you may break a few to begin with, so make sure you learn with the raw shaft rather than a really nice expensive arrow. To learn more, visit our website at raptorarchery.com or stop by our store and museum in the beautiful Columbia River Gorge location of Hood River, Oregon.